Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. We have some breaking news going down right now. Seems like war is back on in Iran. We have massive strikes and massive attacks going on in Israel as we speak. We have ballistic missiles, drones, all kinds of stuff that is happening right now as we speak. So what we're going to do now is we had to cut the show short a little bit. We wanted to run for a little bit, about 3 hours today. We ran for 2.5 hours with the show that we was doing with the true power of nuclear weapons. But anyways, we are bringing you breaking news coming out of the Middle East right now. We have massive massive damage and a lot of footage to go over. We also have photos and videos of the strikes and stuff that's going on. It is happening right now as we speak, y'all. So please bear with us. Details are coming in and out. So whenever we get breaking news or more of a breaking news is happening right now, we will stop the show and proceed with the breaking news. But other than that, let me get to the news.
This very second, Israel has just been attacked by several waves of Iranian missiles after a attack in the suburb regions of Beirut this morning inside of Lebanon. And right now we are expecting a major response. Right now, Israeli officials are saying that Tehran will burn tonight as a result of this attack. So we have a lot of news coming out, and we're trying to keep up with it the best we can. But right now, things are going at a crazy pace, and Israel's saying that the war is back on right now. So it's going down as of today.
At the moment, we're observing two separate missile incidents where the Islamic Republic of Iran has fired a large volley of intermediate and short-range ballistic missiles at the northern region of the state of Israel. Currently, two different air raid alerts have been issued over just the past few minutes, with some skirting along the area of the border from Kiryat Shimona to Nahariya, and a second alert now being issued as a second volley of Iranian missiles have been fired more towards the central area between the Sea of Galilee and the port city of Haifa. We've been able to report that at this moment right now, Israeli officials are stating openly that the city of Tehran must burn tonight, and it does appear that the Israelis are already gearing up for a response. Just minutes ago, U.S. aircraft, particularly KC-135 Stratotankers, are now scrambling and taking off from the Tel Aviv International Airport or the Ben Gurion International Airport to be able to avoid possible fires being directed at Tel Aviv and the area where these aircraft are currently stationed. If we look at the region right now, we can see that the entirety of the airspace of the Islamic Republic of Iran does appear largely closed except for a singular Taban Airlines flight which just took off from Tehran, and we're also seeing that the airspace in Iraq appears to be fairly sparse, and we're expecting that this airspace is going to start clearing out at a much faster pace now that it has been confirmed just minutes ago that the Islamic Republic of Iran is now firing significant ballistic missile barrages at the state of Israel. We've also been able to get some additional information as well on these alert areas and what is going on within the northern region of Israel, as the first alert region is an incredibly large one which covers the entirety of the Golan Heights and from Kiryat Shimona all the way down to Hadera just north of Netanya. We understand that this was the first ballistic missile attack, and picture evidence was already starting to come out showing that interceptors were being fired, which we can see right here in this brief security camera clip, the blip of a interceptor going up into the air attempting to shoot down an incoming Iranian ballistic missile, but we haven't gotten any additional videos, at least as of yet, as of this moment. A second wave of alerts.
Also, hold on just a second. We have breaking news right now. We're currently seeing that additional ballistic missile launches are apparently taking place in Israel right now. We're hearing that from Urmia, Iran, that apparently the IRGC has just fired another volley of ballistics at Haifa. That was the original target. It looks like this time, it looks like the area near Kiryat Shimona and also Haifa as well is under attack at the very moment. So that is what we're eyeing right now. Apparently, this is either the second or the third wave of missile attacks that we've seen so far on Israeli territory by the Iranians. So it appears to be a pretty serious situation. It looks like they're saying that there's been at least 4 ballistic missiles over Israel which have been intercepted, and that's just the ones that have been intercepted. Apparently it's a lot more than that that's been fired at Israel, of course. So it does not appear that everything's being intercepted. Also, we just got word that the activity at the Ben Gurion airport has just come to a complete stop as of right now, and we're also seeing apparently here it looks like a whole bunch of sirens are going off pretty much in the northern region. It looks like the region that's generally been targeted by Hezbollah is the region that's currently under ballistic missile attack at the moment. So that appears to be the main targets.
And that does appear to be the main targets. We were actually just about to cover that second wave right here, as we do have the information that the second wave doesn't appear to be directly affecting the Kiryat Shimona and Nahariya area like we saw with the first attack, which the warnings have been issued for. It appears to be between the Sea of Galilee and the port of Haifa. We are not entirely sure the absolute number of ballistic missiles that are being fired by the Islamic Republic of Iran in each of these barrages, but we are assuming that it's most likely more than 10 per barrage, meaning that right now the Iranians have most likely fired in excess of 20 intermediate and short-range ballistic missiles at northern Israel over just the past few minutes. We've also been able to see additionally that at the same time, schools have now been closed throughout the entirety of the state of Israel following the threat of missile fire coming in from Iran. This happened quite literally during the first barrage, and we've also been able to see as well that the Israelis have put out a couple of statements as well saying that they believe that this is a resumption of the war and largely a declaration of the continuation of the war by the Iranians. We've also been able to see that emergency guidelines were issued by the Israeli Home Front Command, which has issued a limitation on gatherings of 200 outdoors and 500 indoors. They have banned educational activities and are restricting workplace and agriculture to locations with accessible shelters, meaning that largely Israel is once again entering the emergency Home Front Command scenarios that we had seen during the active phase of the conflict. We also understand that at the exact same time, there's been some very interesting statements that have come out of the Islamic Republic of Iran, specifically within Tehran, by members of the Iranian government and also the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as well. We have been able to hear that some statements came out this morning from MB Ghalibaf, which stated they are neither committed to a ceasefire nor believe in dialogue, and by demonstrating through the naval blockade and violation of agreements regarding Lebanon, that they only understand the language of power, which was already starting to gear the situation towards an armed confrontation earlier in the morning before we saw the attacks that are happening right now. We've also been able to see that another statement was made by Ibrahim Raisi, which was threatening that Iran will retaliate against Israel's strikes on Beirut earlier in the morning. This statement said as follows: "We will deliver a decisive and painful response to the Zionist regime's attacks on Dahya. These rabid dogs must be disciplined and put back in their place. Look at the sky over the occupied lands tonight," making it incredibly clear that both by statements from Ghalibaf and Raisi, the Iranians were already gearing several hours ago to start missile attacks on the state of Israel due to Israel's attacks on Beirut and the Dahya suburb, which were conducted right before this attack. Jet activity has
Also, real quick, before we go over all this right here, let's take a quick look at the videos of the interceptions. Let's take a look at the active attack on Israel first. We have some video coming out of the missiles flying over Israeli airspace, and also some of the interceptions as well that I'm currently reposting at the moment. So let's show people what's happening inside of Israel at the moment and see what's going on there near Haifa.
Well, we can see some missile interceptors here in this picture. We can also see some lights from the ground. It doesn't really look like a whole lot happening in this clip rather than interceptor fire. And that's all we have?
No, we should have some videos there in the timeline and stuff like that. It's reposted at the very top.
Oh, here we go. They weren't showing up. So here's the other clip of the interceptors.
So you're saying here in the video, they're saying it's flying toward Israel from central Iran. So apparently we're looking at maybe a Haifa here, it looks like, or something, or maybe a nearby village or town to Haifa, possibly in northern Israel.
This is most likely Haifa. We're probably viewing that to try and throw down a quick geolocation on that. Probably from an area around here, just on top of this hillside, and they're starting to look back towards this area because there is a larger height within this area that would give that sort of a same field of view. So this does appear to be filmed from Haifa at the moment. So we are seeing that there is air defense interceptor action over Haifa and incoming missiles in the area as well at this moment right now. And the Israeli air defenses are largely indeterminate to their success at the moment. We're not really sure how many missiles they're able to successfully intercept, and we're also not entirely sure how many missiles the Iranians have fired in the first and second attack waves at this moment right now. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that, either by the Israelis or the Iranians with some sort of a published statement, but we're not really getting any good numbers or discernments in the moment if there's also been impacts as well, which there is most likely going to be. We have seen that in prior times with Iranian attacks like these, the Israelis have not been able to see a 100% successful air defense interception rate. As a matter of fact, towards the last part of the armed conflict before the ceasefire, the Israelis were getting down in interception rates that were as low as the 30th percentile and lower, and we were seeing that most Iranian missiles were actually making it in and hitting whatever targets they were generally being aimed at. We're not entirely sure if this is going to be the case this time. There has been a decent amount of, I guess you could say, prep time for the Israelis to rearm and make sure that their interceptors are ready, but we're still going to be waiting for additional data and information to come out on that. Apparently, we also have more videos coming out at this moment as well. Hopefully, they'll repost on the Twitter.
So we have more videos coming out right now of the interceptions over Israel. I put it in the likes tab. We're currently seeing video confirmed out of Haifa in northern Israel, and we're also seeing as well some more footage. I believe all these footages here are over Haifa for the most part, but we can see here some of the interceptions and also some of the incoming missiles over the airspace. So let's take a look.
Moving us on from that clip, we also were able to see here a further amount of Iranian missiles being fired, apparently somewhere within Iran, as we're seeing that people in the street are having some sort of a pro-regime rally in the midst of the missiles being launched. Pretty damn loud, honestly.
So this is from Tehran.
Somewhere from the general area. We also were able to see here in this clip this looks to possibly be filmed from Israel, although we're not entirely sure. Actually, this appears to have been filmed from Iran because we can actually see the minaret of a mosque right there. So I'm generally believing that's probably also from Iran as well.
Also, I'm seeing some people say check Flight Radar 24 right now. Let's see what's happening on Flight Radar. I'm seeing people say that there's big takeoffs of aircraft apparently over Israel, it looks like. So let's see what we can spot there.
It's generally, we've already covered this prior. The KC-135s are scrambling out of Ben Gurion right now to try and get out of a possible impact site. So we had already covered that generally earlier on, so it looks like they're just getting further on up in the air and trying to get out of the area. We can also see that involved in these takeoffs is a KC-46 Pegasus, and we also have another KC-135 that appears to be spoofing its location because it was taking off prior. We had been able to confirm that, but it now appears to be at an absolute standstill right outside of Ben Gurion, literally on the perimeter of the airfield. We can also see another KC-135 that's picking up speed and also altitude quickly while it's also trying to move out of the area. So it looks like the tankers at Ben Gurion are trying to move out of the area to make sure that they're not going to be in the line of fire of further incoming Iranian attacks if they do target the Tel Aviv area, and that is just largely continuing on at this moment. We also were able to see in this clip as well further actions of either the Iranian launches or the incoming Iranian attacks in this clip. Pretty silent video. But moving us on from that one and on up into our next clips, we also were able to see these clips taken in Haifa of the incoming missiles and the missile interceptions.
أصبحت حياتي بعدها اسمع يا أهل الصراحة نحن بعيد يعني.
We can also see in this clip as well further incoming Iranian missiles. Moving us on from these clips, we've also been able to see another security camera still, once again showing in the southern Lebanese area some sort of an incoming missile or an interceptor that was fired. So it does appear that at this moment, the state of Israel is under a significant attack by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and a large amount of short-range and intermediate-range ballistic missiles has been seen within the northern area of Israel, and it does appear that air defense interceptor actions are still ongoing at this moment. Hopefully we'll be able to get some further information out from the area. And do we have any?
So right now, where we can confirm that a third wave of missiles has been detected toward Israel, we've generally covered that already, but apparently that third wave is still making its way toward the northern part of Israel, which is Haifa and maybe possibly Tel Aviv. I can't really tell right this second, but we are seeing that a third wave is imminent inside of Israeli territory. So this is a pretty big deal. 3 waves of missiles, that's no small attack right there. That's a pretty major attack. So we are seeing that Israel's apparently started canceling schools around the countries. They started doing that. They've also apparently said, like we've gone over before, that Tehran will burn tonight. They're also vowing an imminent response, and it sounds like they're beating the drums of war right now. So it's definitely back on. So far, the U.S. hasn't weighed in, but we have seen that apparently the U.S. president has been briefed on it as of 5 minutes ago, and that appears to be the case. So also, I am seeing some people report some other things in a live chat right now. They're saying that maybe Israel's trying to get permission to strike the Iranian energy sites. That could be the case, but I can't get confirmation on that right this very second. I'll try to see if I can get more information about that. But a very serious situation to say the least. Also, wait a minute. Hold on here. Let's see. So I am seeing here that apparently it is being confirmed that Israel's currently asking the United States to greenlight strikes on Iranian energy sites as of right this very second. So they are going for the throat, essentially, at this point. If the U.S. grants that, we're going to see probably a full-on resumption of the war across all fronts. So a very serious situation right now. But Enforcer, that is the breaking news as of right this second.
All right, and so at the moment, we are still tracking the third wave of missiles that have been fired. We're most likely going to be expecting them to enter Israeli airspace within the next 15 to 20 minutes, at least from this point right now. And if there are more advanced versions, like the possible hypersonics, the Fada 1 and the Fada 2, they might be arriving in around 7 minutes from now. We're not entirely sure which ones have been fired at the moment in the third attack wave, but we'll probably be getting footage here incredibly soon, either of the air defenses still working on the second incoming wave, and then footage of the incoming third wave over northern Israel. At the moment right now, it is quite clear that the situation has returned into largely a full-blown war, and I see that many people in the chat have been saying, oh, well, you know, we must have been dragged in, well, I must have been dragged back on air to do another breaking news stream. Actually, this was one of the things that we laid out in the background would be big enough to go live immediately, because it would largely be the resumption of the war, and it is unfolding right now live on air. Generally, we would believe that the state of Israel will be mobilizing the Israeli Air Force, and they're most likely already getting airborne at this moment right now to prepare for and conduct retaliatory strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran to some extent. We'll most likely see that this opens up with some sort of suppression of enemy air defense actions, so we'll start to get sporadic reports of explosions around western Iran, and then we'll most likely start to see that air-to-ground munitions might start to hit key targets within western Iran and also the capital of Tehran as well. But we actually have breaking news coming out at this moment.
Okay, so we are seeing here that apparently there are brand new launches coming out of Iran. They've launched even more missiles as of literally right this very second. We're hearing that these ballistic missiles are being launched out of the Khuzestan province near the Andameshk area, apparently. That's apparently where these missiles are being launched from that we're hearing about at the moment. So we're hearing about 3 that's been launched, but we're expecting that other areas of Iran will be launching more ballistics very shortly. So this is wild. I mean, it's nonstop missile launches. The Israelis and the U.S. were saying that Iran's missile launching capabilities were largely destroyed, but this is definitely proof to the contrary, to say the least. And they appear to be targeting, like we mentioned before, the area in northern Israel that was apparently being attacked by Hezbollah over the last 72 hours. So we have some more video that's come out generally showing some of the missiles being intercepted. I do want to say that the IDF is currently saying that all missiles have been intercepted so far. It appears to be that could be the case, but take that with a grain of salt, though. That's what the IDF is currently claiming, and we don't know if that's actually the case or not. But they're saying that all the Iranian missiles have allegedly been shot down, so we'll have to see. But let's take a look at our footage.
We see here an air defense interceptor being launched from northern Israel to try and intercept and shoot down an incoming Iranian SRBM. We can also see another one of those incoming SRBMs right there overhead, making its way further into Israel. And you also see another clip of one right here. Moving on from that clip, we also were able to hear that apparently 3 of these were launched from Kale Kasim in the Andameshk Khuzestan province area. The Khuzestan province is around the city of Avaj and generally within this area down here. So these were actually fired directly along the western Iranian border near to the Iraqi city of Basra, from what we're understanding, meaning that they're trying to get the shortest flight path possible from the launch sites to the state of Israel and their points of impacts that we might be hearing about here in the near future. We also got to see another clip here of more incoming Iranian missiles over Israel.
Oh, we got something not so great right here. Let's see. I'm currently getting some images here, apparently from northern Israel. It looks like something has exploded on the ground. Like not that first one, but the second one here. It looks like something has exploded on the ground in northern Israel. It appears to be a possible missile impact from the looks of it. I'm seeing smoke around it. We're seeing, of course, a very bright white flash from the ground. So it looks like Israel might have just taken a direct hit as of right this second. Also, by the way, apparently the 4th wave is underway of ballistic missile strikes on Israel. It looks like it's currently underway as we speak. So that's not good, obviously, either. We're also hearing that there could be a possible explosion over Isfahan, Iran, from the looks of it. They're saying there's an explosion there, and we're also getting a video apparently showing an explosion in Isfahan, which is, of course, near an Iranian nuclear missile site as well. So we're also seeing, we're getting a lot of stuff happening right now. It looks like we're seeing anti-aircraft activity being reported over several areas of Iran right now. So it could be possible that maybe Iran is being engaged by Western forces. That could be what we're seeing right now. But Enforcer, what do you make of that?
Pretty interesting developments, to say the least. It does appear that there is a 4th wave fired, and they're trying to get us through all of this. This appears to be an explosion near to the area of the port of Haifa. It's not incredibly well discerned at the moment what may have been hit and also where the flash is within the area, but it is within northern Israel. That we can confirm, at least at a minimum, because the first 3 attack waves are all within the northern Israel area. Additionally, we've also been able to see that there is some sort of a possible explosion that has been confirmed around Isfahan in this clip, where we can see some sort of a moving object and a bright flash, which might have been a hit on a missile site within Iran. We're not entirely sure. We've also seen that the 4th attack wave has now been announced, and it appears that each attack wave is moving a little bit farther south, but still remaining within northern Israel. So we're now going to put this down as the 4th volley warning. So let me put that down right here. And that appears to be the 4th round of incoming Iranian missiles on Israel, meaning that this is a high-intensity air campaign currently being conducted by Iran. We're seeing 4 different launches. We're assuming that there's 10 missiles in each. So just within the past few minutes, Iran has now launched around 40 short-range and intermediate-range ballistic missiles just at northern Israel alone. We also get to see this ballistic missile that was apparently filmed over Karaj, which is just to the west of Tehran, and that may be the reason why we've seen some clips that appear to be coming out of Tehran showing pro-government rallies in the midst of the missile fires around the city. So I'll put a missile flying over Karaj towards Israel on this one, so that way we can make sure to keep it discerned that this is not Allied fire, this is just further Iranian fire.
Also, we got some breaking news. Sirens are now going off in Amman, Jordan right now. It looks like Jordan is now sounding the air raid sirens as we speak. We don't have a whole bunch of detail about what they're expecting, but it sounds like Jordan is expecting possibly an attack coming up very, very soon. They must be expecting Iran to hit them as well. So just to reiterate, Jordan is now under an air raid alert, which is a nearby neighboring country to Israel. And I'm also hearing that apparently the U.S. Air Force has just issued their posture to very high severity for Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and also all the bases across the region. So they're saying Jordan, the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait have been moved to higher force protection conditions, effective literally right this second. So they're expecting possibly an attack on those locations of U.S. forces as well. So the war has gone extremely hot, to say the least. And now Jordan's also under attack from the looks of it. So also, by the way, I'm seeing a whole bunch of Israeli politicians. They're out here saying Tehran will burn. It's going to burn down to the ground. They are rallying the people very strongly right now. So we're expecting an imminent response by Israel on the Iranians very, very soon.
And we will definitely be seeing that an Israeli response will be occurring incredibly soon. We might already be seeing that right now, as a matter of fact, folks. It appears that there might have been an explosion in the Isfahan area that we're still trying to track and get more information on. But it does appear that the resumption of the war is happening in real time right now, because the United States is now expecting attacks against U.S. forces in Jordan, Kuwait, and also Qatar. Qatar has not come under a significant amount of Iranian attacks during the raging ceasefire, quote unquote, over the past few months. And we've also been able to see as well that the Israelis are coming under continuous attacks in the northern region of their country by multiple ballistic missile volleys. So it's becoming incredibly clear at this point, without a doubt, that the conflict has resumed. I would say that it's a pretty clear and obvious thing to say that this is a resumption of the conflict, if anything would be, and this doesn't really allow for the skirting around of the situation like many have made in the U.S. government, to where they can claim that the ceasefire is still intact. This appears to be a complete collapse of the ceasefire. Also, by the way, some of y'all may be wondering what led to this today, because it seems to have kind of come out of the blue, and this is something that we really haven't been able to cover yet at this point, is that earlier in the morning, the Israelis crossed an Iranian red line that the Iranians had announced weeks ago, that if the Israelis bombed Beirut or the Dahia suburb, that was going to force an Iranian response directly on the state of Israel. The Israelis ended up bombing Dahia just this morning, just a few hours before this attack started, with some footage here showing the strikes and the aftermath of the actions. The Dahia suburb, to just make sure that everybody knows, is a hotbed of Hezbollah terrorist activities, and is generally where most Hezbollah headquarters are found for the group that operates within southern Lebanon. So it's not exactly like the Israelis are attacking absolutely nothing. They are attacking the headquarters of Hezbollah. But at the same time, however, this was an Iranian red line that Iran had stated that if the Israelis bombed Dahia, the Iranians were going to respond with a significant ballistic missile barrage directed at Israel. And the Iranians responded with a direct missile barrage at Israel after Israel bombed the Dahia suburb. So that's generally the reason why we're actually watching what's happening right now, is because the Israelis crossed an Iranian red line. And it appears that the Iranian red lines are actually real, which is a little bit interesting, considering that they have been letting the U.S. do a pretty decent amount of things to them, and they hadn't done much of anything back. But we actually have more breaking news coming out at this moment.
Okay, so this is very big breaking news right here. The IRGC has just made this statement that they said waves of missiles and drones will continue to be launched around the clock for the next 7 days until the enemy, meaning Israel, is deterred and ceases its crimes. They said for the next 7 days around the clock, they're going to be firing missiles at Israel. So that's as serious as it gets right there. So that will force a response. It looks like I would not be surprised to see Tehran and also other major cities inside of Iran getting hit extremely hard over the next few hours. I would not be surprised to see that. The IRGC is going all out. They are attacking pretty much all the way through at this point. So that is very serious right now. We are getting more reports, by the way, that apparently there are explosions being confirmed around Iran's Tabriz airport and also in the East Azerbaijan province of Iran. And we are seeing apparently more missile launches coming from Tabriz, Iran, which is where those explosions were also heard as well. So it is going down, folks. It's Sunday, June the 7th. The war has officially restarted as of today. This is not going to be stopping for the foreseeable future. So this is quite serious. Was not expecting this today.
The explosions appear to be coming from the area of the Tabriz Shahid Madani International Airport, just to the northwest of Tabriz. We can actually see some of the military hangars and installations here just on the northeastern side of the airfield, and that's where we generally believe that the explosions and strikes are most likely being reported at the moment. There are a couple of different support facilities that are also found within the area, and a barracks facility within Forugda town, which we can also see here on the satellite photography, which might also be getting targeted and hit most likely by Israeli strikes at the moment. Right now, the United States of America has not made any statements or has conducted any direct action that we can speak of or confirm at this moment, but it does appear, at least for now, that the Israelis are the ones that are conducting the retaliatory strikes against Iran. And at the moment, we can generally confirm, well, we can positively confirm that the Tabriz strikes appear to be underway. We think that there might have been some strikes in Isfahan, and I don't think we've heard of any other reports of possible strikes or retaliatory strikes on Iran for the attacks that are currently being conducted on Israel outside of the Tabriz and Isfahan strikes, which we've seen either on security camera or we're getting eyewitness reports of at the moment right now. So retaliatory strikes are already underway, and if we look at the airspace in the region, it does appear that the Iraqi airspace has already cleared out, and it also appears that a large amount of aircraft are now attempting to clear out of Syrian airspace and also Jordanian airspace in real time.
Also, it does appear that the air defenses are now active over Tehran's airspace at the moment. It sounds like Tehran, Iran is currently fighting off some sort of incursion. It's unclear what the incursion actually is right now, but that's what they're saying as of this moment. So I am getting some early reports as well. And once again, if you are from Israel, don't take our word for it. Listen to your local authorities instead. But we are hearing that allegedly it could be possible that maybe an all clear has been issued for North Israel, and they're saying that people can leave the shelters. So that's what we're hearing right now as well. We're also getting some more footage coming out of apparently, well, actually, scratch that, not footage right now, but we're seeing that the IRGC is now reporting that the Ramat David Air Base inside of Israel was targeted with ballistic missiles. We can't confirm of any impacts on that location as of right this minute, but we can tell you, though, that there's been a lot of interceptions over northern Israel by the Iron Dome system. We can confirm that, but I would suspect, though, that there's probably a couple of impacts, but we're waiting to get confirmation on where those impacts have occurred.
So it appears that right now the Iranians are claiming that they tried to attack the Ramat David Air Force Base within northern Israel, just like Matthew was reporting there, and this is the exact geolocation of where it's at. If we look at the second, third, and fourth missile alerts, it actually appears that every single one of them had a catchment area that would include this air base within this area. To give you all a little bit of information really quickly about the Ramat David Air Base, currently it is a fairly important airfield, at least for the Israeli Air Force at the moment, as we understand that here in this area today, the Israelis have let's see here, I'm trying to get the squadron names for everybody here, two F-16 squadrons. They have the 101st and the 105th Squadron of the Israeli Air Force at this airfield, and they also have the 109th Squadron of F-16Ds and F-16Is based at this airfield as well. So there's a decent amount of Israeli aircraft, particularly all of the F-16 airframe from those squadrons that are currently based at this airfield and could have come under attack. It also appears in this picture, although I'm not able to find anything about this online, that there may be a IDF rotary aviation wing that's also based here as well, as we can see a couple of AH-64 Patens and also what appears to be a couple of UH-60 Blackhawks, most likely of the Israeli Defense Forces, which also operate out of a helipad at the central northern area of the airfield's perimeter. So we can generally understand that this area has come under attack. We're not sure if there's any strikes, impacts, or explosions on the area, and this might be ironing out where that large flash picture that we have came from earlier. Let me see if I can find that one here real quick. This likely impact, it might be on the area of this airfield, possibly. We're not entirely sure, but considering that the Iranians have publicly stated that that was one of their priority targets of this round of strikes, we can generally assume that most of the missiles probably would have been gunning for this airfield, and if there were any that made it through the air defense and ended up hitting a target, it might have been directly on this airbase. However, that doesn't really mean that the Iranians have destroyed any aircraft. We have seen that Iranian missiles, while being able to generally iron out a broader area, they're not able to iron out pinpoint targets, meaning that it might have hit somewhere that's non-critical on the airbase. We're still waiting for additional information on that if we can ever get it. But we actually have news statements that have been coming out from the Islamic Republic of Iran. So, Matthew, what do we got on those?
Okay, so we're seeing that the IRGC inside of Iran's apparently issued a new statement. This is coming from Fars News inside of Iran. They said that tonight's operation against Israel was merely a warning, and if the aggressions are repeated, the responses will be broader and will encompass all American Zionist targets in the region. So that's conflicting with the other statement that we just heard, that the IRGC was saying that they would launch nonstop attacks for the next 7 days straight, around the clock. That's sort of conflicting with that. Also, by the way, this is not going to hold off the Israeli response. Israel is already saying that Tehran's going to burn, and we are expecting in the next hour or 2 hours or maybe even 3 that we'll likely see some sort of very strong Israeli response to this situation. I doubt the U.S. is going to be able to restrain Israel on this because, of course, Israel usually doesn't just sit back when they get attacked. They usually do something in response. So I doubt the U.S. will be able to rein Israel in if they wanted to even do that. And also, it'd be a little bit absurd to ask Israel not to respond, considering that they literally just got attacked, and this could have killed their civilians. So that's what the RGC is saying right now. But Enforcer, what do you make of that statement?
It looks to me like they're trying to stop a retaliatory attack from happening. I think that's what these statements are being made for, of don't hit us or it's going to get worse. But they already made the statement earlier that it's going to be 7 days of endless soup and salad in the form of missile attacks. So I'd have a feeling that this might just be a statement to try and see that the Israelis don't strike back and the Iranians can get in a couple of more licks before any response is actually conducted. But at this point, the wheels are turning in Israel. They're going to be conducting retaliatory strikes. It sounds like they already are in Tabriz and Isfahan from what we've been able to hear. So I think that this statement's coming a little too late for the Iranians, considering that it already looks like retaliatory strikes are being conducted by the Israelis. But we have even further breaking news coming out right now. So what do we got?
Okay, so it's being reported right now that the U.S. president has weighed into the situation, and take this for what you will, it's allegedly, I'm not sure if he just made the statement just now in response to the attack on Israel, it sounds like it was, but take this for what you will. Allegedly, the president's just said to Iran, you shot your missiles, that's enough, now get back to the table and make a deal. So that's not going to stop Israel, by the way. I doubt Israel's going to listen to that mumbo jumbo right there. They literally just got attacked with ballistic missiles. So Israel's going to respond. I'm pretty confident about that. But the United States is taking this position that apparently it's okay if Israel gets attacked, and they're just going to have to accept it. And somehow this means that a deal is closed. So I don't know what the hell is going on with the United States, but they're out of their mind as of right now. So I doubt it's going to stop Israel. Do you think it will or not?
No, that's definitely not going to stop Israel. I don't even know what the hell kind of a stupid comment this is. Like, this is like saying, okay, well, the Japanese just attacked Pearl Harbor. Let's talk to them. You know, it's like, who the hell would ever work off of that kind of a mindset? And apparently, according to AZ Intel, this was a quote from Fox. So I don't know if he spoke directly on Fox on air. We don't know at the moment. But it appears pretty clear that the President of the United States is taking what I would say is probably the weakest approach that can be seen, that the Iranians have now fired directly into Israel, which is one of the active belligerents in the conflict, along with the United States and Iran. And instead of the United States saying, okay, well, basically the war's back on now, because now they're firing into Israel, they're not just firing at Gulf states anymore, which is also a significant violation and escalation of the ceasefire. Instead of looking at it as that, now we're going to say, okay, you've had your temper tantrum and tried to kill some people in an allied country, so let's get back to talking. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous at this point. I mean, talking is clearly dead at this point.
Yeah, and also, by the way, apparently they say they're close to a deal. I'm not joking, by the way. It's being reported, it appears to be reported by some media outlet that's maybe associated with China, it looks like. They're saying that allegedly a statement was made by U.S. officials that Iran is close to a deal. So, I mean, we're not even going to put too much weight into that right now. We're going to put all of crazy statements aside
Well, remember,
for now and put all that junk. Yeah, we're gonna put crazy grandpa statements off to the side for a second because that's pretty much meaningless. But moving on from that bullshit, we're gonna move into the stuff happening right now on the ground. We are seeing a video that just emerged from Israel, apparently showing a fire at a location in northern Israel. Apparently, it looks like a ballistic missile did impact, but thankfully, it appears to have hit an open field, at least from the looks of it.
Well, something definitely hit on Israel's territory, that's for sure. But that appears to be some of the information we're getting out of northern Israel. It does appear that a lot of the information is showing that there's been some impacts of some sort. We're not exactly sure what types, the damage, and also exactly where, but we'll hopefully be getting out more of that information here incredibly soon. I think one thing is going to be fairly clear, at least at the moment right now, is that the U.S. doesn't appear to be adamant to join in retaliatory strikes against Iran. So this appears to be solely an Iranian-Israeli affair at the moment right now, because the U.S. appears to be living in la-la land. A deal is right around the corner, as we all know. And I do have to say that it's very convenient that it happens on a Sunday with that announcement once again, right before, a certain thing's going to be reopening for the week. But we actually have more breaking news coming out at the moment.
Okay, so we just learned that Iraq has just closed their airspace following these missile launches from Iran. They've just closed it. So what that indicates to me is Israel is about to start raining hell down on Iran. That's what that indicates to me. That's what we saw during the last round of exchanges between Israel and Iran about a month or two ago. They would close the Iraqi airspace because Israel has to use that airspace to go over to Iran and start bombing their cities. So that's the way I'm taking it right now. Also, by the way, the president's made another statement, just to report this real quick, not to weigh in too much on it, but the president allegedly said, I would have said a deal would have been signed on Monday, Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday, but now this has happened, and they're saying that they will make decisions soon about what's happening with Iran and Israel right now. So that's apparently taking place at the moment. But Enforcer, what do you make of that Iraq airspace closure?
I would say it's probably not for the Israelis, speaking with the Iraqis, because we know that the Israelis will operate without Iraq's permission. I think it's because the missiles are flying through their airspace, and it makes an unsafe and hazardous condition for the flying public. So they're shutting down the airspace to stop any civilian aircraft from flying through and possibly colliding with a missile and getting shot down. So I think it's more so of a cautionary thing than showing that the Israelis are working with Iraq to strike in Iran, because we already know in the last round of attacks during the armed conflict, the Israelis had quietly set up, without Iraq's permission, 2 airfields on Iraqi territory to conduct strikes on Iran without Iraq's permission. So I would have a feeling it'd be a little bit out of character for the Israelis to now start officially working with the Iraqi government to tell them to close down their airspace for inevitable strikes. It looks to be more so for the incoming missile fire over their country. So
I think the missile fire is over with from Iran, though. I think Iran, for the moment, is to stop firing missiles. So the attack's over with. So they've actually closed their airspace after the missiles stopped firing. That's why I'm saying it's probably over Israel about to launch attacks on Iran, because there's no more missiles flying around. If Iraq wanted to shut their airspace, they should have done that an hour ago. The attack's now over.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, they're a slow-to-react country. They hardly have an operational government, and generally, right now, the airspace conditions unsafe. The volatility's high, because it doesn't matter if the strikes were, over by now. There could be further strikes, and the Iranians are making statements that there certainly could be, and the Israelis are also making statements that this isn't going to fly, which might lead to further Iranian missile attacks. So I generally say it's probably because of the hazardous flying conditions in the region, because of the inbound missiles that were just flying over Iraq, and that's now made the airspace too unsafe to fly through. Because we're also seeing similar things right now, whether they've been officially issued, in Syria, which did have active airspace when we went live on air, and now its airspace has also been completely cleared out as well. Quite literally anything in between Khuzestan and northern Israel has been completely cleared out, which would give me a feeling that either some sort of a non-NOTAM sort of a statement was issued in Syria and also northern Jordan, because of the incoming Iranian missile attacks, and the Iraqi one's just an official statement coming out right now, a little bit late to the punch, but still on that larger issue.
Maybe so. Also, by the way, we are getting some more breaking news right now. Allegedly, the U.S. president has said that Israel's attack in Lebanon and in the suburbs of Beirut were not coordinated with the United States, and he's not happy about them. So we were talking about this before we went live on the air, before we got on this breaking news stream right now. We were wondering if maybe it was some sort of U.S.-Israeli plot to restart the war in a defensive way by attacking Beirut, because Beirut, and with the attacks there by Israel, that has been a red line for Iran for at least a few weeks. They said if Israel attacks in Beirut, then that's going to restart the war in its entirety. So it appears to be that the U.S. is at least claiming that they were not notified about that, and Israel acted completely on their own accord by striking into Beirut. So if that is true, it sounds to me like Israel did that knowing they was probably going to start the war again, and now we're seeing it, of course, apparently breaking out. So I'm not sure who to believe on this one. We'll have to see how this pans out over time, but what do you make of that?
It sounds to me like the U.S. is trying to distance itself from the situation, and I have a feeling, I'll be entirely honest with y'all folks, I have a feeling that even if the Iranians started to attack U.S. forces in the middle of these Israel attacks, the U.S. is probably going to say, well, we shot all of them down, it was no big deal, the Iranians are just, generally mostly peaceful, it's a mostly peaceful demonstration of their concerns, but the ceasefire is still intact, and we're still very close to a deal, it's literally right around the corner. I have a feeling that that's the U.S.'s approach at this point, which has become so toothless and also spineless, it's never going to result in any sort of a successful diplomatic resolution, because it's being shown at every level at this point that the United States is not going to get into a war. Iran could basically come into the Middle East's regions and beat around the U.S. military and wipe out entire flight squadrons of aircraft if they wanted to, and the U.S. is just going to completely shrug that off and act like it's not happening. So I'm generally believing this is going to remain entirely between Israel and Iran for a while, unless if a U.S. base is attacked and a U.S. service member is killed, and then we might see that the U.S. does something. But at this point, I'm assuming that the United States is taking the weakest approach possible to the situation in every scenario, and that largely would facilitate that the United States does not get involved at all at this point, no matter what happens.
Maybe so. I can only imagine the discussions that are about to be had, because remember, folks, that just about, I think it was like 4 or 5 days ago, there was a phone call between the U.S. president and Netanyahu, and apparently the U.S. president confirmed that this is what happened. Apparently there was a bit of a cussing match that took place on the phone. It sounded like, I think maybe the U.S. president might have called Netanyahu a crazy bastard or something similar to that. I can't remember the exact wordage of it, but there was some pretty strong wordage exchanged between Netanyahu and the U.S. president. So So there's some tensions already there. So I can only imagine what's going to be said over the phone at this time. It's probably going to be, telling Israel, you better not attack Iran or otherwise X, Y, and Z. So I just don't know. It seems to me like the escalation chain is already in motion. Israel's already vowed to respond to it, and I would be surprised if they didn't at this point. So Iran's vowing that if Israel even retaliates in the slightest, they're going to launch a larger attack even after that. So I think at this point, it's pretty much out of the U.S.'s control. It's going to go the way it's going to go, with or without the United States weighing into it. I think at this point, it's pretty much set.
Yeah, I would say that I think at this point the course is set in place. An attack on the Israelis is generally going to be starting an entire broader conflict over again, because the Israelis are going to attack the Iranians, and a lot of people for some reason have this idea that the Islamic Republic of Iran it only hates Israel, it doesn't hate the United States, but they are going to attack U.S. bases, and they're probably going to try and pull out the fine china to make sure that they can get some U.S. casualties generally in the mix, which will largely force us back into the conflict to some extent. There's really no way at this point that a regional war or the resumption of the regional war can be avoided, because most of the essential ingredients for the continuation of a full-blown regional war have just happened right now. The Israelis have been attacked, the Israelis have already counterattacked in some limited form, and the Iranians are making it clear that they're not going to be stopping anytime soon. So, Matthew, what else do we have for breaking news coming out right now?
So Iran has just closed its western airspace to civil traffic. That also comes right after Iraq just closed their airspace as well. So it seems like the path is being cleared in the sky for Iranian missiles to make their way toward Iran for the attacks. It appears to be that is the case. We are hearing as well that Israeli officials are confirming that they are vowing to deliver what they call a powerful response to Iran's ballistic missile fire. That's according to 2 Israeli officials. We're also hearing as well that apparently there will be a greater attack than Israel just saw, that Iran's talking about right now, if this attack follows through that Israel's talking about. So they're definitely setting up the stage for a big showdown between the two. Like I said, I think it's set in stone at this point that something's about to break out, that Israel's about to conduct. So I don't think there's any talking. I think Israel might actually jump and respond before the U.S. even has a chance to rein them in. That sounds like what they're about to do.
Sounds to me like they're definitely working on that one right now. And also on top of that, I mean, I got to say, folks, it's a little bit stupid to try and corral the Israelis at this point, because regardless of the actions they took this morning, which were directly against U.S. interests, of bombing Dahya, which was an absolutely stupid idea, because that would clearly restart the entire conflict. Outside of that, though, with the Iranians attacking Israel directly, the Israelis are largely forced into making a response, because not making a response is giving out a very weak image and could be opening up to further attacks and harassment in the future, either by Iranian terrorist groups within the surrounding area or by Iran itself, because now they're seeing at that point that they could attack Israel without Israel even responding at all. So I would have to say that, in my honest opinion, I think that the Israelis are going to be responding here incredibly soon, probably within the next 30 to 40 minutes, if we haven't seen it yet already. So we'll probably start to see that unfolding live on air very soon. As far as what that's going to look like, it's generally just going to be airstrikes. That's the best way to explain it.
Also, by the way, to return back to a story we were tracking earlier as well over Iranian airspace, apparently the anti-aircraft fire that we heard near Tabriz and also near some other areas like Tehran inside of Iranian territory, apparently, according to the IRGC, that they're saying that they were firing at drones. That's what they say they were firing at. So it sounds to me like maybe Israeli surveillance drones or possibly even maybe U.S. surveillance drones were flying over those cities trying to get some type of intel, and then Iran opened fire on them. So it does not appear that so far we have seen an actual military confrontation between the Western and Iranian forces right now, but we are expecting, like we just went over, we are expecting Israel to launch some sort of strong retaliation in the very near future. It sounds like the U.S. won't be involved in it, though, from the looks of it, unless the U.S. suddenly jumps into the fray, like out of the blue. It sounds like it'll simply be Israel responding, and that'll be pretty much it. So, also, by the way, another story that we need to return back to real quick. We had heard that Jordan had sounded the air raid sirens. We have not heard any confirmation whatsoever that anything is struck inside of Jordanian territory, so it appears to have been completely for precautionary purposes that they sounded the air raid sirens from the looks of it. So that's some positive news that's come out so far. So that appears to be the news for the minute. Of course, we did hear that Israel asked for a green light from the United States for strikes on Iran's energy sites. I would imagine that the U.S. probably is not granting that request for the most part. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that it's a fairly, like, we're hearing some really interesting developments still coming out from the region, and we're going to be trying to keep an eye on them the best we can. I also was trying to observe the airspace situation at the moment of what's going on within the Middle East, and we have a couple of interesting things to speak about. So all of the airspace between Iran and Israel has almost completely been cleared out at this point. The entirety of southeastern Turkey, the whole of Syria, all of Lebanon, all of northern Jordan, and Iraq have all been cleared out. There are these two flights which are actively in Iraqi airspace, but it appears that these aircraft are in a state of confusion. This aircraft is attempting to land into Jaffa within Iraq, and we're not entirely sure if it's going to be landing there or if it's attempting to lie in wait to see if the airspace will be reopened or if they're given special permission to land. And this larger aircraft, this 777 that was actually flying from Jeddah to Basra within Iraq as well, also now appears to be within a holding pattern for a brief moment in northern Saudi Arabia, but looks like it might possibly be heading on into Basra. These two aircraft are the only ones in Iraqi airspace that we know of right now. Most other civilian aircraft that are not flying into Israel or Jordan are flying through the Sinai Peninsula through Egypt to largely circumvent the entire area and not fly through it, and a couple of flights are still coming in on short final at Ben Gurion International Airport, while more U.S. Stratotankers, well actually this Stratotanker, which has been in the same spot for about a damn hour at this point, is still sitting there. But a large amount of commercial aircraft are still coming into Israel. We're not sure if the Tel Aviv airport is going to be closed here within the near future, because we know that there are airspace closures within northern Israel without a doubt right now, but Tel Aviv doesn't appear to be closed. Jordan also appears to have some limited airspace activity left, but we're expecting that the whole area is going to get cleared out a lot like it was at the beginning of the legitimate war that happened in February. So we actually have more breaking news coming out as well. So what do we got, Matthew?
Okay, so according to sources that allegedly are getting some words from the U.S. president, it sounds like the U.S. president has allegedly stated that he is about to call Netanyahu and tell him not to attack Iran in response. So he's about to start burning the phone line down to the Israeli officials to tell them not to respond to the attack that could have easily killed Israeli civilians. So that's apparently the case. That's being reported from N12 News out of Israel right now. We're also seeing as well that apparently GPS jamming has just started inside of Iran. That appears to have just begun 4 minutes ago. Heavy GPS jamming is also a sign that some sort of response could be imminent, because of course that's the first step to making sure that Iran really can't make much targeting information out of their missile systems by this GPS jamming. So we're also getting word as well that apparently Israel's Ministry of Health is preparing to transfer all hospitals to protected areas and underground complexes. And we're also getting another report that's kind of interesting that apparently a civilian aircraft might have crashed in Iraq from the looks of in the desert, in the western desert of Iraq. Not totally sure about that. We can't really confirm that, but I'm not sure if they're talking about like an airliner or they're talking about like a smaller aircraft, but they're saying an aircraft has crashed inside of Iraq. What do you make of that?
I don't know. We don't have anything on ADS-B transponder to show an aircraft that's gone down in that area. I mean, we have the two commercial aircraft at pretty high altitudes and at pretty decent rates of speed right now in southern Iraq, but I don't know of any commercial aircraft or any aircraft for that matter that have crashed in southern Iraq. We haven't really seen that at the moment yet, but we actually do have, speaking of which, it actually appears that both of these aircraft that are inside of Iraqi airspace are being watched by tens of thousands of people right now on flight radar because they're trying to see what they're going to be doing. And it also appears that a decent amount of people are watching the aerial tankers that the United States has up at the moment. And to give you all a bit of a military view of the area, this is what it currently looks like. Notice that most of the ADS-B transponders are now being actively turned off. The aircraft are in the air. We have been able to confirm that there's a lot of tankers in the air right now, but there are almost none of them with active transponders on. This one appears to be spoofed inside of Israel. This one actively does have its transponder on, and this is one of the ones we actually covered earlier that had taken off from Israel that we had seen at the very beginning of our show, and it's now made it into the Persian Gulf with its transponder still active. We can also see a U.S. Navy PA Poseidon conducting some form of patrols from its airfield in Djibouti, and we can also see that another tanker has come back on the transponder over Saudi Arabia, which is once again showing and confirming right now that there are a load of tankers that did take off from Israel that are over the Middle East, but their transponders are largely off or they're not squawking any data at the moment. We actually have more breaking news coming out even right now. So what do we got?
So we just learned that in addition to Syria closing, or excuse me, in addition to Iraq closing its airspace, also Iran's closed its western airspace. We've heard now that Syria has just closed its southern airspace that's closest to Israel as well. So that just took place right now. Southern Syria's airspace is closed as of right this second. So the airspace is closing all over the Middle East right now. It's happening all over the place, which also tends to line up with an imminent response as well. In addition to hearing about the GPS jamming starting as well inside of Iran. So that's pretty big news right there. We've also heard that the Iranian Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei has apparently made a Twitter post from the closet. He said, "The shaky Zionist regime's breath has run out." That's from Mujtaba, the leader who has not been seen in public literally since he's taken office. So he's making some very strong posts from the closet. Maybe sooner or later he'll come out and maybe give a public statement, but right now we have not seen that. But Enforcer, what say you?
It does appear that at the moment we are getting an idea that Mujtaba Khamenei is trying to be fruity with the Israelis. He is saying that their shaky breath has run out. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We don't know what the Israeli response is going to be looking like at the moment, but I'd have to say, folks, that it'd be rather odd, rather peculiar even, if the Israelis didn't respond at this point. But the president, by the way, folks, the president is adamant that the Americans will be taken as a strong force within the region. He is calling the Israelis, burning down the phone line to try and get them to not bomb Iran. So it looks at the moment that the U.S. is working as hard as it can to de-escalate the matter by just letting the Iranians punch everyone that they want and us doing nothing in response. Sounds to me like the foreign policy of the last administration in the Middle East, which wasn't really that good for that matter either. But still, that's what we're seeing at the moment. The Syrian airspace getting closed, we generally could confirm that earlier. It just looks like we're finally getting the official announcement of that now. But while we're saying that, a British Air Force aircraft, a KC-2 Voyager, has actually taken off from RAF Akrotiri and is now flying into northern Syria, which might be showing that there's now a British air mission also underway as well to be involved in any air defenses over the Kingdom of Jordan or any other British-aligned allies within the region which Britain has defensive commitments with. We can also see as well that some other countries that appear to have their airspace closed are obviously Lebanon, and also appears that most of northern Israel's airspace has also been closed as well, although we do not have official reports for that, at least at the moment. So that appears to be all of the information that we're getting, at least right now, and hopefully we'll be getting some more information soon. At the moment, we're generally waiting for what we're expecting to be the Israeli counterattack that will be conducted against Iran, because it appears that the first 4 missile barrages by Iran have ceased, and now it's largely within Israel's court to respond to the Iranians at some point, or to get on the phone with the President of the United States and listen to whatever he has to say, which is probably going to be something nuts. But outside of that, we are still on standby right now for further news. Do we have anything else coming out?
So we do have some more details about the Syrian airspace closure right now. We're apparently hearing it's a little bit more serious than we thought. Syria has closed their airspace. Excuse me, goodness, I'm losing breath there myself. But Syria says it's closed its airspace for 12 hours in the southern region of its country. And they also say it suspended operations at Damascus airport, which inside of Syria is a pretty big deal to close the Damascus airport. So it appears to be that is the case as of right now. So we're also hearing as well, another statement has just come out from Iran. They say a senior Iranian source tells Reuters that all U.S. bases in the region will be considered legitimate targets if Israel attacks Iran. So Iran's trying to stop any type of retaliation. And also it sounds like the U.S. is trying to stop Israel from retaliating as well if the reports are accurate. So that's pretty big. Oh, also another big news right here, actually. We have one other big story. Apparently, Iran's Red Crescent has just placed all operational forces nationwide inside of Iran on full highest state of alert. They're mobilizing over 110,000 rescuers in anticipation of possible enemy attacks. So that happened literally just at this very minute right now. So, Enforcer, what do you make of those 3 major headlines right there?
I would say that it's definitely showing us that the situation is probably going to be continuing for some time, and most countries are probably expecting it to, because, as anybody would know, folks, with any reasonable mind, a sane mind, the Iranians attacking Israel is restarting the entire conflict all over again. I mean, there's no other way that could be looked at. And it also appears that the Iranian Red Crescent is now getting ready for the Israelis to start dropping bombs on anything everywhere. And we generally do know, not to say this with any sort of a bias here, but the Israelis seem to not really care too much about civilian collateral, so there's probably a decent reason for them to start mobilizing the Red Crescent throughout Iran, because there's always the high possibility of civilian collateral, or as we would say, civilians getting wiped out in the thousands whenever the Israeli airstrikes start coming back around. So we'll have to watch and see what goes on inside of Iran here soon, but it does sound to me like the Iranians are trying to get all of their medical personnel and humanitarian personnel ready to go, because it's about to start getting pretty nasty here really soon.
Yeah, I think that's pretty predictable right there, because Israel is not the type of country, definitely not, to sit back and let their country get attacked and then not do anything about it. That would be highly uncharacteristic of Israel. In fact, I would be blown away if they didn't respond. So I don't think there's pretty much anything that the U.S. is going to be able to do to stop that. Also, by the way, I'll be curious to see if Israel defies the United States, how bad is the rift going to get between the Israeli leadership and the U.S. leadership? Because we've already heard, and we went over this earlier, that there's some very high tensions right now between those two governments right now, and it could end up testing that alliance pretty strongly, which would be the first time in probably decades that's really been tested to that degree. So we'll have to see, though. But I'm pretty certain that an Israeli response is coming. I'm pretty certain about that.
Yeah, I would have to say there's definitely going to be a response, definitely coming around here very soon. There's no way that won't be the case. And I think that even if the U.S. gets on the phone somehow before this happens, the Israelis are not going to listen to this. They don't ever listen to anything along these lines, and they have to give some form of a response. So a response is going to be given.
Yeah, I would say so.
I would definitely agree. Yes, indeed. But outside of that, we are still waiting for further information to come out at the moment. We do understand, folks, that the Islamic Republic of Iran has conducted a significant rocket attack and missile attack against northern Israel just a short while ago. There were 4 waves of attacks, and it does appear that there were a couple of impacts in northern Israel. We're not entirely sure if those were on civilian areas or military installations, and casualty reports have not come out at the moment that we're seeing of. We've also been able to additionally hear that there are significant missile barrages going at least over the entirety of the Middle East is the best way to explain it, which is shut down most of the airspace within Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and northern Israel. And we're also hearing that the Israelis are vowing that there will be a response. And in the meantime, the President of the United States is trying to pretend like the whole thing didn't happen. It's no big deal. And he's trying to call up the Israelis and ask them not to respond to what clearly is a big deal and a violation of the ceasefire and a complete act of war that's happened once over again. And all of this happened, just to explain this as to why this all started to unfold, all of this happened because the Israelis bombed Dahia this morning, which the Iranians had warned over and over again that if the Israelis bombed Dahia in Lebanon, they were going to strike at Israel, and then the Israelis went and bombed Dahia, and then the Iranians struck at Israel. So that's what we have at the moment as a general summary of the course of events. But we actually have more news coming out even right now. So what do we got?
Okay, so we do have some more alleged statements from the President of the United States right now. This is according to Barack Ravid, who I believe is a reporter with Axios. So take that as you will, but it's coming from Barack allegedly. He said, more quotes from my phone call with President Trump. He said, the Iranian strikes didn't hurt anybody. Hopefully Israel is not going to retaliate. If Bibi strikes them back, it's just going to keep going like the last 47 years or like the last 3,000 years. And allegedly, he said each of them had their fun. Israel had its strike and Iran had its strike. We don't need another one. So it's remarkable how this is being tamped down. Like, this is obviously, to use the word fun, that's a bit of a strange thing to use in this context. People could have easily gotten killed here. So that's kind of interesting. But so I'll say this, folks, like the whole idea of bringing peace to the Middle East is absurd, because there's too many factions in the Middle East to simply get that situation under control this quickly. It's impossible. There's been so many people that have attempted to get peace in the Middle East. It is just, it's like, it's a futile effort. Like, you can try to mitigate it to a certain degree, but I mean, you got too many conflicting interests. You have, of course, the Islamic folks are there. You have the Jewish folks there, Christian folks. There's too many different competing interests to simply say, let's flip a switch and have peace. So the president, his goal there is not going to happen. That's just simply not feasible. So I'm just not totally sure what the thought process is. But Enforcer, what do you make of that?
I don't even know what to make of this kind of stuff at this point, folks. The statements from the president are literally just straight up like insane. Like, it's like, I don't even know what world he's living in anymore, because how in the world can we look at the Middle East and what's been going on, and the fact that the Iranians have been attacking the U.S. during the whole ceasefire and everyone else during the whole ceasefire, and now they're back to directly attacking Israel, and Israel went out of its way to violate an Iranian red line and bomb Dahia against their wishes. How in the hell do we work with those two sides and never end up achieving any meaningful peace? There's no way the Israelis don't want it. The Iranians don't want it. What are we supposed to do? And for some reason, the president keeps acting like, no, if we just stop everyone from blowing each other up, which they keep doing against our wishes, then everything will be fine. It's like, no, it won't. It's like they'll keep blowing each other up against your wishes because they don't give a shit what you think. And it's pretty obvious. And it's also, on top of that, pretty clear at this point that with the course of action that we're trying to take of mediating the two sides, which are bloodlusted and wanting to kill each other on both sides in perpetuity, that we're never going to achieve anything. One side has to win over in the Middle East over the other. That's the only way that it can go. And trying to mediate the two sides that want each other dead and want to destroy each other completely isn't really amounting to much of anything, and the ceasefire has proven to be completely pointless over the past 2 months that we've been trying it. So why don't we just, finish the war we started against the Iranians, break the blockade in the Hormuz, and end up winning the conflict, so that way we can actually see that the region finally enters some relative state of peace because everyone's aligned with the U.S. side, and then we leave.
Yeah, we could do that, possibly. But also, we are seeing statement after statement coming out of the Israeli government right now. There's a lot of pressure being put on Netanyahu right now to respond very forcefully to Iran. We're seeing that Israel's, apparently, some official here, I'm not really sure which official this is, but it's an Israeli official, is saying, Iran regime, your time is up. This is your end. We're also seeing the Israeli Ministry of Culture and Sports has just stated this. Israel must strike forcefully in Iran. And as they said today in the government meeting, the days of conspiracy are over and we must move from defense to offense. That comes after statements from other Israeli officials that are a little bit higher up in the ranks, also saying that tonight Tehran will burn. So even if Netanyahu wants to abide by what the U.S. president is demanding, which is apparently not to retaliate, there is so much governmental pressure on Netanyahu, he might not have a choice, because otherwise he could become extremely unpopular, even with the top Israeli officials that are in the country. So it sounds to me like it's got to happen at this point. That's what it sounds like.
It does sound to me like it is definitely going to happen. I mean, literally everybody in Israel wants it to happen. Everybody in Iran is hoping that it will happen. I mean, both sides are just like betting and like basically fiending at this point to get back into the conflict. The only people who don't are the United States, and that's why we're actively getting screwed over because of the Strait of Hormuz blockade. So it's coming. I mean, like, at this point, there's no way that it cannot be coming, because the Israelis have to respond to this. There's no way that they can. This would be like the United States not responding to Pearl Harbor or 9/11 and just going, oh, well, things like that happen from time to time. Not that that many people have died in northern Israel in this attack, but at the same time, an attack was conducted on a nation state's soil. They have to conduct a counter response to that, because there's no way you can't and then act like you're still a strong and a feared country that people shouldn't mess with. I think there's definitely going to be a response coming around the corner. But we'll be waiting to see when that response is, because right now we haven't seen it just yet, and we're still waiting to see if it's going to be coming around inevitably at this point. A lot of people are in the polls right now on this channel and talking about what the Israelis are going to do and whether the Israelis are going to strike Iran despite the U.S. pressure that's currently being attempted in the background. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
Okay, so that is the question. Will Israel respond to Iran despite U.S. pressure? It looks like 89% of the audience said yes, Israel will respond, while only 11% said no. So I would say I'm definitely with the 90% at this point. Israel is going to respond. I'm pretty confident about that. If somehow the U.S. is able to force Israel not to respond to the situation, I will be shocked, very much shocked in that case, because that means that the United States somehow has the power to stop a sovereign country from launching attacks after they literally just got attacked by Iranian ballistic missiles. So I'll be very fascinated to see here what happens, but I'm pretty confident that a response is imminent. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm very confident a response is going to be imminent. I'm not sure if it's going to be here soon in the here and now, or whether it's going to be tomorrow or during the middle of the night tonight, but there's definitely going to be a response coming. There's already been some explosions reported at Tabriz and Isfahan, so there's a pretty decent argument to be made that some sort of a small response has already been made right now, and they're just preparing for a larger response coming around the corner. But I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's minds right now, folks, that the Israelis are going to be making a response, because there's no way that they can. Regardless of what the hell the United States is trying to argue, which is an absolutely insane position. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, that, we are still waiting for more breaking news to be coming out at this moment on the situation. But to give you all a little bit of a recap of everything that's happened today, and where we're at right now, earlier in the morning, the Israelis bombed Beirut, which the Iranians stated for weeks that if the Israelis bombed Beirut, the war was going to be starting over entirely again, and they were going to start bombarding Israel. And it actually does appear that at the moment, sorry, correction, everyone, I thought I was actually getting some information from Matthew. But outside of that, getting back to the summary, the Israelis then bombed Dahia, which the Iranians stated that they didn't want them to do, and then Iran started to fire significant missile barrages back at the state of Israel. There were about 4 missile barrages that were conducted, almost all of them in northern Israel, against a specific airbase from what we're largely seeing, and the Israelis are now vowing that they are going to be retaliating. The U.S. is wanting to try and stop the retaliations and is saying that they're very close to making a deal with the Iranians, and so they don't want the Israelis to counterattack, although we don't believe that there's any deal coming around anytime soon, because they've been saying that a deal's hours away for months, and there's been no deal ever made over those multiple hours aways that we've gone through several hundred times over the past 2 months. So that generally is the situation that we're dealing with within the Middle East right now. And we're still waiting to see what the Israelis are going to be doing, and we're also waiting to see what's going to be coming out of the U.S.-Israel phone call, which is also apparently being conducted right now in at this very moment. So we'll hopefully be getting some more information out of those sides of things, but certainly a very interesting situation to watch unfolding. Also, by the way, I see a lot of people talking about, well, when did this really start? Like, well, you know, who in the world's to blame? Because Hezbollah fired a rocket attack on Israel last night, and they did, but, you know, if we trace this all the way back, you can go all the way back to October 7th of 2023, and then you can go from there all the way back to 1979, and so on and so forth. You can go back until the end of time, but basically what started the actions today is that Israel bombed Dahia, and that's what led to the Iranian missile attack directly. So with that, we actually have more news coming out. So what do we got?
Okay, so we do have some more news right now. This is a statement from the IDF spokesman. They said that currently the chief of staff of the Israeli military is conducting an assessment and approving plans for the future following Iran's ballistic missile attack on Israel. And they said, quote unquote, the Iranian terror regime made a grave mistake. So we're even hearing the official spokesman also saying it's a grave mistake, meaning that there's likely retaliation coming very soon. We're also hearing as well that the IDF is currently preparing and bracing for the possibility of additional incoming fire from Iran. So it appears to be they're expecting that Iran could launch another preemptive strike before Israel mounts its strikes on Iran. So it does appear to be ramping up still. So right now, the big question is the United States going to exert so much pressure on Israel to not retaliate that somehow that talks them out of it, which we've said here, and about 90% of the audience agrees that they will not be talked out of it. So that is the big question right now. But that appears to be the breaking news. We're still seeing a whole bunch of airspace shut down in the Middle East as of this moment, if I can get that out.
So that is the breaking news that we have for y'all right now, y'all. So as y'all can see, that massive strikes are coming in from Iran. It looks like this is going to be like the 5th or 6th wave that's about to start. We will be keeping y'all up to date about this, and we'll be back on air later on. We just wanted to, we wanted to pop on air because we have breaking news coming out, and wanted y'all to give y'all the details at that matter. But anyways, make sure y'all hit that bell button so y'all get notified whenever we come on air and whenever the show starts. And make sure y'all hit that follow, subscribe button if y'all are new to the channel. I really appreciate all y'all stopping in today, and hope y'all see y'all tonight at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We will be live then, and we will be having live call-ins as well at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. It is 5:23 p.m. here on the East Coast, so 10:30 about 4